Weedy Weekend 64. Hey, my fellow medicators, stoners, procrastinators, lazy people, happy people, medicated people. It's Gord. Weedy Weekend 64 is here. I have a few stories for you. I have a bit of medication for you. And as I often say, pitter patter, let's get at her with the first story so we have something to cheers to. While I get to this first story, please take the time, pause, thumbs up, share it, subscribe if you haven't already. Now, enough of the commercials. Let's move on to what we're all here for. My very first story is just a reminder about prohibition and how it really happened. Nobody was ever looking out for the betterment of humankind. No, it was started mostly to protect somebody's job in the government. They had it's a good story. They had, basically the story is Aslinger, I think was the guy's name. I'm not reading right now, was in charge of the prohibition department, but they were ending the prohibition on alcohol. And thus would, if they have nothing else to prohibit, then that would end his career. So he started moving on. He sent out a letter. Aslinger sent out a letter to, I'll find it somewhere. Let's see. Well, anyways, he sent out a letter to some 30 different doctors saying, I want proof that this stuff is bad for you. And 29 of them, all of them but one, wrote back and said, it isn't. So, but yet he took the one that wrote back and said it is. I'll read this. What evidence did Harry Aslinger have? It turns out, at this time, he wrote to 30 leading scientists on the subject, asking if cannabis was dangerous and if there should be a ban. 29 wrote back and said no. Aslinger picked out the one scientist who said yes and presented him to the world. The press, obsessed with Victor Licata's axe, cheered them on. And what they're talking about, Victor Licata's axe. In 1933, a Victor Licata, a totally deranged, weird person, attacked his family. He happened to have been smoking pot at the time. They blamed it on the pot, not on his mental condition. Amazing, hey? They used him as the conduit to make all this happen. All of this. Since then, there's been many other reasons to keep it buried, mostly pharmaceutical companies, but it's interesting to find the beginning. And let's cheers to the ending of it. And what a way to cheers to it. I'm going to be using my new, like behind me is my D-nail. And in fact, it's on, but it's broken. It's reading HH instead of the temperature. Once in a while it works. But I have a new product that I'm going to be reviewing probably tomorrow. And I'm going to use it for my tokes. It's my portable D-nail by Yokan. It's called the Torch. It's absolutely beautiful. And it comes with two different... You've seen me use it with this glass dome. I like it with the glass dome at home. But if you have a rig that you're attaching it to, attaches to almost any rig. I'm going to use two different rigs during this one. You can put this metal top on it that also has they fit tight, has a choke. And I'm going to use that for the toke right now. And I'm going to show you that even a bong for your flower can easily, see how female to female, we just switch it around, take the bottom off, hook it back up the other way, and here we go. Let's cheers to the end of prohibition. One click. It's a heavy hitter. What have I got in there? Right now I'm going to switch this around. Right now I have clear THC distillate. Just pure THC. Goes in there really nice. This, when you have it that way, sits beautifully, waiting for its next use. And let's go on to our next story. I don't know what that was. Somebody pause that and just keep it going. The next story is a neat one. Oregon State Fair. The Oregon State Fair has long been known for a place, a very inclusive place, showing off, the biggest watermelons or the weirdest shape this, or, it's all about horticulture. This year in the Oregon State Fair will be the first time they will also have a category for marijuana plants, for cannabis. Morse, who's running the place, said the plants will have ribbons just like any other prize-winning crop. The plants will come to the fair having already been judged by a panel of marijuana growers, including Ed Rosenthal, a well-known author and cannabis expert. We are doing it for H-style, he said. You get a blue, purple, or yellow ribbon. We are celebrating the plant as a farm crop from Oregon. Fairgoers are hoping for samples. Will be disappointed, though. You don't need samples. Bring your own. I mean, come on. You don't need samples. This is beautiful. The plant's being celebrated as the plant. I'm glad they aren't making a deal out of it with giveaways and stuff like that. It's a plant. They're celebrating the plant and the beauty of the plant. And wow, cannabis is a beautiful plant when it's in flower. It's even a pretty plant when it isn't. Maybe some of the males don't look so pretty, but neither do we in human form. So let's have a cheers to that. Cannabis moving to, and here again we get to see how now it goes on a different rig, and that same, I put probably 4 or 5 tokes worth of clear in here. Cheers. That's a heavy hitter. That's a heavy hitter. I really will not be going back to my D-nail except while the battery's charging. Let's move on to the next story. I love this story. A little bit of levity. Your kid is way more likely to be poisoned by crayons than by marijuana. A new study in the journal JAMA Pediatrics is making waves this week with the news that there's been a sharp uptick in emergency room visits and poison control calls for marijuana poisoning among children in Colorado. The study found that the number of marijuana-related hospital visits for children under the age of 10 more than doubled since the opening of Colorado's recreational marijuana market, from 7 in 2013 to 16 in 2015. Marijuana-related poison control calls for young kids also rose sharply in that period from 25 to 47. Opponents of marijuana legalization were quick to jump on the findings. On the other hand, it's not entirely surprising that a new market offering a product for the first time will lead into an uptick in cases of accidental ingestion and misuse. Marijuana edibles, prepackaged candies, brownies, and the like are naturally appealing to small kids and accounted for nearly half the visits. Beyond that, the raw number of marijuana exposures are extremely low. It's also worth noting that a call to a poison control center doesn't necessarily mean that poison has taken place. A child may slurp down the toothpaste on her toothbrush, prompting a panic to the poison control, only to have the operator tell the parent that everything will be fine. It's, again, fear-mongering. Read it, laugh at it, enjoy it. Enjoy it. And we will move on because I don't like giving that kind of stuff too much headway. Let's cheers. Next, I'll put the other dome on. It's beautiful. And at the perfect temperature, it's around 450 degrees. Anyways, the next case, Canadian marijuana case goes ahead for less than 2 grams. It's a story, I'll read a little bit of it, but it's a story that really bothers me, because why, if the Liberal government is so wanting to get rid of the criminal element, why are they not telling the prosecutor's office to leave simple possession alone for a product that soon will be legal? There needs to be that moratorium. And then I'm quoting now, reading, because this guy got $100 fine. He was found guilty for having 1.15 grams of pot, about $10 worth. The case is one example for why Justice Minister Jody Wilson-Raybould should order the prosecutor's office to stop prosecuting individuals for simple possession of marijuana while it works on legalization, Richard's lawyer told the Star. Nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows who to ask what's going on. And we're in this very strange position where marijuana is still illegal, but it's been announced that it is going to be legal. I think the message sent to the public is that there is no consistency and no predictability in the system. This might not have happened with a different Crown attorney, with a different police force, in a different jurisdiction. And that's bad. I am relatively safe walking around here with my stuff and being a medical patient as well. But there are places that are worse than this, and there are places that are better than this, and that shouldn't be the case. We need to get some consistency in the law in the midterm while we wait for legalization, and then we better have good laws, or we better all get together and fight it. So let's have a toke to this story. And wow, this clear is hitting me. I'm going to toke smaller tokes, and this is why I like the dome. I'm going to switch to the dome. Then I can see it starting, and I can just shut off the heat element and just get a smaller toke because I'm getting pretty high. Cheers. Smaller toke. Longer story. Let's move on. Now, the next one is a vape lounge owner in Hamilton, Ontario wants to teach people how to grow pot. I bring this up because it's an important time. It is August. The 6 months that the government was given by the courts to fix the Medical Purposes Regulations Act, Marijuana for Medical Purposes Regulations, MMPR program. This is the month that they're supposed to be fixing it. This guy has come forward and said part of that Allard decision was the government was told they need to let patients grow. And the injunction allowing some patients to grow has been upheld, waiting on this final decision of a final law that our courts, I hope, will agree with, because it'll let us grow, let us get better access. In the meantime, this guy's preparing. He's going to run a course on how to grow. I'm quoting now, the reason why it's dangerous. And this is, the reason I quote this is because these are the opponents to him even having a course. The reason why it's dangerous to grow these things is because mold and other health hazards can occur. He said of the risks using chemical and electricity. That puts the people who are producing it in danger, and the neighboring houses in danger as well. The only grow ops that have ever caused danger to the neighboring community are illegal ones that have had to hide their power usage and thus cause trouble. Once it becomes legal, proper use, proper growing, and what's really going to happen is co-op growing facilities where people work together to grow in community greenhouses and stuff like that. That's what we need. You want safety? Don't just quote the mistakes that have happened while it was illegal. You want safety? Build safety into the future. That's all. Build safety into growing. Yes, mold can, if you're growing your own cinnamon, mold can grow. So F off with that. I'm not having another toke. That distillate is too much to have bit by bit by bit all the way through it. Let's move on to the next story. This story is about Alzheimer's and how THC works really well at cleaning the plaque that ends up on the brain, causing the lack of ability to recall memories. I recalled it. I'm going to quote here. I spoke to many family members of people with mild or moderate dementia who believed that THC or whole plant marijuana was effective in alleviating the confusion and agitation that sometimes occurs. Also, if you look at the far right corner of this story, when you call it up, there is Sanjay Gupta from CNN. I hate quoting CNN, but Sanjay is a guy who got turned around on cannabis, and he talks about how red wine can help. There reports that a certain chemical that is abundant in red wine helps clean that plaque as well. But he reports two things. One, that its solubility is so low that you would have to drink an impossible amount of wine per day. But also, two, although they've proven that it removes the plaque or helps towards the removal of the plaque, it has had no studies or no proof yet that it has improved memory. Where THC, as I just reported, these people report memory improvements, confusion loss, less confused states. So that's the more important thing, is the quality of life, not just does it remove a plaque that we think is causing some of the Alzheimer's problems. Alzheimer's close to me. I lost an uncle to it when I was young, and it really still affects me that this man who loved me so much just couldn't recognize me. It was sad. And Uncle Ted, this one's for you. Cheers. Wish you had this. Small one. Let's move on. I like to end Weedy Weekend, if I can, with a recipe. Today is from Leafly, how to make good ship cannabis infused chocolate cheesecake. And you know what? I may be trying this one. I have some semi-sweet chocolate. I have lots of shatter, my reclaim. I may be trying this recipe. I'm pretty high from that THC distillate. Cheers to mmjtotalhealthcare.ca, where that distillate comes from. I gotta tell you, it gets rid of my pain. I walked over 10 kilometers yesterday and woke up really in a lot of pain, but here I am. My hat's on, my jacket's on. I'm getting ready to go for a nice long walk again today. Keep that body oiled and keep it moving. Peace and cheers. Love and harmony. Weedy Weekend 64 signing out. See you next week.